This is your June 2022 soul story. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's Romy here. If you've got a sun rising or moon in the sign, this is a reading for you. We're going to give you some astrological dates and intuitive messages to empower you as you move through the next few weeks. So we are into Gemini season, a fellow air sign, and we're opening up with the energy of the Six of Swords. You know, as life unfolds, every moment has an element of uncertainty to it, but this doesn't have to feel overwhelming or disruptive. In fact, with presence, we have a choice if we wish to participate energetically in what is being presented or projected towards us. And the Six of Swords to me is an illustration that this month you are quite clear in where you are ready to withdraw your energy, or where you no longer have the capacity or the tolerance or the willingness to show up or participate in anything that you know isn't serving you or isn't really aligning with you. Your sensitivity is very heightened this month, and we're all feeling very triggered. And so there's something almost a little bit self-protective as I look at this figure sort of wrapped up in the boat here. And you know that you're being guided, and so where there's a deeper sort of intuitive pull to kind of move away from situations or people, I think you really need to take heed and pay attention for that. Of course, the Six of Swords is a rite of passage for us, and it's about demonstrating the level of progression that we've been able to recognise and how far we've come as well, you know. And this month is going to hold so many moments that move you, moments that heal you, that challenge you, that help you to grow. And what we're really recognizing in that fifth house energy as your heart is speaking to you is, you know, what do I need to fall back in love with within myself, within parts of my life? Because it's no doubt that you have been through enormous periods of upheaval and transformation and shedding, and you may well look around and things might feel very different. The people in your life may have changed significantly. And this is the new you. You got the memo, right? So this is an opportunity through the month of June, I think, while we're in air energy, which feels a little bit more comfortable for you and how it's operating, to really kind of explore and start to see what that means and what that feels like. Now we're going to have Mercury shifting direct on the 3rd of the month, so we can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief as that happens and things seem to ease up a little bit in terms of the way in which we are communicating. And there might be some permanent shifts and adjustments that you've made as a result of what you learned during that transit as the energy of death comes through. Now, we do this month, pay attention, have Saturn going retrograde in your sign on the 4th. Now, I think there might be a little bit of a tough reminder as to how much you actually were able to learn the lesson over something that you have been working on. And, you know, the energy of death coming through with that Six of Swords suggests that, you know, this is the time to kind of really allow the change to happen fully and make sure that if perhaps there has been an instance where you've gone part way, but not quite all the way, that June is the month where you commit to doing that. Because when we have Saturn retrograde over these next few months, we have to revisit the commitments, we have to revisit our boundaries, we have to revisit what our long-term vision looks like. But in Gemini season, we also have to consider the short-term tactical decisions that we're going to be making in order to get to that destination. At the same time, we also have Neptune going retrograde this month on the 28th, and Neptune will dissolve and strip away the illusions. So where we have been lost in the fantasy of something or hoping for the best, we might get a bit of a cold hard reality check. That's important though, because again, I think with that energy of transformation coming through here, there is an opportunity for you to just make sure that you're using your energy more wisely and that you are investing it in the right areas. And this is actually going to be really supportive if we are trying to address where you need to fall back in love with things and how you readdress that relationship with desire and pleasure, because what we're going to be doing is clearing out things that don't work for us, aren't really speaking the same language, that are not reciprocal in energy. So look at Gemini season in the first part of June as a real information gathering exercise with an opportunity to experiment an awful lot and to really think creatively and to play and explore creatively as well as to what can help you in terms of processing emotions, what can help you to say how you feel, what is going to give you the opportunity to discover like who you've become and how you've changed. So I think it can be quite an interesting journey for you in this first part of the month. Now, we have a couple of dates to look out for, the 10th and the 11th, as Mercury is going to trine with Pluto on the 10th in Taurus and Capricorn, and then we have Venus in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus conjunct on the 11th. I think there's going to be some interesting energy around that time that might bring in some surprises, and you have news coming through with the 8 of Wands. So messages on their way, important conversations, events and circumstances that seem to transpire and kind of come together at exactly the right moment to help facilitate something. Now, you're going to probably feel quite emotive about what might be going on or what might be emerging for you, okay? And there is a sense of, I want to say perhaps somebody putting upon you, or maybe you yourself feeling this way, that it's kind of all or nothing. But the problem is with that, we have a complex situation. We're in Gemini season where we have this sort of dualistic nature of situations and people, and that's quite mercurial and changeable. And we're still in Mercury retrograde shadow, so I'm not really vibing with the idea that something can be all or nothing. I think that's not going to be realistic. So you might have to push back in terms of somebody's expectations. And I guess the question I would be asking is like, are you willing to compromise that much if you feel so passionate, or you want to do something, or you want to say yes? Like, you've really got to think it through, so that you don't end up signing up or agreeing to something that very quickly might feel like it's just become too much of a burden for you. I have a sense around that time as well, especially between the sort of 10th as we build up to the full moon in Sagittarius, which is going to come on the 14th, and on the 13th we also have Mercury in Gemini. There's going to be an awful lot of unsolicited advice, is what my guides are saying, coming your way. So with that in mind, try to observe your own responses and reactions to things, and don't feel that you have to try to prove your point or try to be right. Allow the fact that there's going to be two very distinct opinions or two realities existing at the same time, okay? That is a way for you to be able to actually keep your sanity and your peace and some sense of a balance. If you feel like really knocked off guard with this, you know, we've got the Knight of Wands coming in, which is Sagittarius energy, but I think it's illuminating just the timeline around this middle part of June. And the Knight of Wands is fantastic in terms of just galvanizing, motivating us, inspiring us, brings an awful lot of swift change and messages and news, but you know, he can also be very inconsistent, a bit irrational, very impulsive, sometimes quite aggressive and hostile. And that inconsistency, if you are working on important matters of the heart, or you are feeling a little bit sensitive yourself, just in terms of some of the things that you're still navigating through in your own personal path, that's going to feel like quite a difficult energy to have to work with. So as we're sort of in and around that kind of timeline, just be aware that if there is a lot of opinions or things coming towards you, you're going to have to stand quite strongly and firmly in your own boundaries, and just, you know, be clear about who you are, so that, you know, there is no misunderstanding in terms of you picking up someone else's thoughts or vision and you starting to feel impacted or doubtful within your own sense of self because of that, okay? As a result, I think as well, because you might have to push back, or there might be something going on there, you may feel like you're going to struggle to live up to somebody's expectations, and I think that's absolutely on them, Aquarius. Like, I need to say that quite firmly, because I have this sense of it just not being a reflection of you at all, and in a way a little bit of a test from the universe, perhaps part of what's going on with this Saturn retrograde for you, that is actually an indication of just like, well, how much do you know yourself? How clear are you in your value and who you are and what you already bring to the table, and, you know, what is realistic, and you know, all of these questions that you need to ask when something like that is presented to you, or you get feedback if you feel a little bit like overly criticized, or somebody, you know, sort of coming at you in that way. I think as well it's going to feel like a surprise, because I think your heart is so somewhere else. So, you know, it's just like you might be caught up in sort of enjoying or feeling quite good about something going on, and then this just comes in as a little bit of a sideswipe, and so it feels a little bit more like an ouch, because you just weren't expecting it, or maybe you weren't expecting it from that particular person. However, what we're also looking at with this Sagittarius full moon coming in and lighting up that 11th house for you is that there's something coming to a point of fruition and completion. And that means that you can almost like wrap it up and move on. And that feels positive. That feels like something's, you know, maybe it's a project ending, or you've finally been able to like deal with something and get it off your kind of to-do list or clear it out. And it may be something to do with like communities, groups, you know, something that's been going on with a friendship circle, even something to do with technology that you've been working with. And that gives me more space. Like I feel like all of a sudden you've got a little bit of reprieve and some breathing space now, and that's positive, because again, in this 5th house, you know, you want to go and explore and have some time to think about creativity, to sort of get back to some of the things you really enjoy, to be putting a firm emphasis, if it's, you know, important to you, around your romantic life, you know, what's going on in your relationship, or if you're single, you know, what are you doing to kind of seek and try to find a partner. This is a really beautiful time to start to reconsider what your vision for that looks like. So there's something that you're moving away, releasing, and with Death and the 8 of Cups, there does feel like that sense of finality to something that's coming in. And again, you know, sometimes there can be a bit of a grieving process when that has to happen. I also want to say, like my guys have just said, there's a loaded apology. So it almost feels like before something comes to an end, if you've had an issue with somebody or a group or something, there may be like an apology that comes to you, but it does feel a little bit almost like backhanded, or somebody's actually then trying to get you to stay on, or to stay engaged or continue to participate. So it's sort of like, what is it that I'm going to have to do to get them to get them to not leave? So in that regards, I feel like you've already made a decision, because I have a lot of moving on cards coming through here for me. So I'm not sure that there's much that could convince you otherwise, because I think at this moment in time, you're really doing what your heart is telling you. And even though the heart may be, you know, finding its voice in the first part of this month, you know, your mind is still going to be attaching a lot of memories and evidence and experience of kind of previous situations where, you know, people have maybe made you feel in a certain way, or an experience of doing something. You're now like, I've really outgrown this. So the Fool is here. We've got these brand new beginnings coming in because you've created space around this full moon. So I love this for you. And this month we're going to welcome in solstice energy. It's happening on the 21st of June. The sun is going to move into Cancer on the same day. We also have Venus trining Pluto. So again, this emphasis around significant, important people connected into love and money. Really lighting that sort of experience up. But there's something that you are prepared to sort of take a risk with yourself on. And I love that you would be doing that or thinking about that around about the solstice, because that absolutely helps us to just kind of recalibrate our energy field, especially if there have been endings happening and things wrapping up. And so it's almost like a beautiful time then to sort of just you know, come back into harmony with yourself, so that you know what the next step is. The pre-paving that you're doing for what comes next for you is really rooted in a sense of like, okay, this is exactly where I know I'm supposed to be. And don't be surprised around that time as well for some incredibly beautiful spiritual signs showing up to give you a little bit of reassurance and validation, because I feel like there may be 1 or 2 moments through this month where you have a bit of a wobble in terms of your own bigger plans or ideas. And honestly, I don't think it's about in any way kind of what you've done or been investing in, or sort of how you're coming. I think it's more about the sort of reactions of others, or you know, perhaps like misguided conversations, or even you interpreting something in the wrong way, because I do have this kind of extra sensitivity that feels like it's around, especially in sort of Cancer season, where of course that, kind of hits us in the soft underbelly sometimes, doesn't it? Now, we're going to be into 6th house when we shift into Cancer season for you. So, there's a bit of an emphasis around this time of how we take care of ourselves, both physically, emotionally, spiritually. Your 2 of Pentacles showing the yin yang here, and also just that sense of like balance that's required. If something is out of balance, if there's no reciprocity in a situation, it's going to like come home to roost for you, and you may really be feeling quite strongly at that moment like, I can't do it all. There's a juggling quality always with the 2 of Pentacles, but something inevitably has a kind of aspect of compromise around it, and it's okay in the short term, but as we said, that Saturn retrograde is going to be sort of demanding something of you that says, well, this is not going to keep, you're not going to be able to keep going like this for months and months and months. So what are you going to be putting in place? What's the plan? What have you learned? What do you need to change? What do you need to address? How is that going to be put into motion? So the positive thing in Gemini season especially is all that activity on the mental plane cerebrally works really well for you, and you are going to be able to, I think, come up with some quite ingenious new ways that might help, be able to support you, so that you can stop kind of trying to moonlight or, be all things to all people, or split your energy in so many different ways that it starts to water down the very thing that is unique about you. So keep remembering that, this is a month where the heart is going to tell you loudly, this is what I need to thrive. This is what I need to kind of feel sustained. This is the passion that gives me that sense of the life force being awakened. And so you'll start to see much more clearly, especially just because almost the sensitivity from an energetic perspective is going to tell you exactly how you feel around different energies and different environments. The Page of Pentacles wanted to jump out there. So we might have an earth sign, Taurus, Capricorn or Virgo. But there's an earnestness here, and there's a sort of a genuineness I'm actually picking up, where again it's this heart expression that's coming through, and it's, in 6th house energy, it's about how we want to be of service, and I think you do have a genuine desire to want to show up or to help in some way, but we have to help ourselves first of all. Yeah, just do remember that. We have support around you. We genuinely do. There's all these animals are here, and they're all coming in with this really beautiful sense of sort of protection as well as belief in you. So I do think that if you can get to the stage where you give yourself permission, which that energy of the Fool is going to do, to maybe like take a bit of a risk, to let something go, to allow yourself to move on, then actually there's going to be more connections, more energies that are going to start to emerge, and even more so as we move into next month and we come into the beginning of that 7th house energy, which I think is always a fantastic time to harness like your network and start to see people coming in that can really facilitate and open doors for you in really interesting ways. But I think there might also be something that's offered to you, an invitation, the promise of something, an offer of something. So keep an eye out for that. It feels definitely like there's a sweet sentiment and connection to it. You might feel for whatever reason that you're not able to say yes, which is a little sad. Why would that be? I'm wondering if you feel like you don't want to, you think it's going to trigger somebody else. It's almost like you're trying to be nice, but I kind of feel like saying Aquarius, like you kind of got to look after yourself in this instance, There might be a kind of moral code or something that you're trying to live by. I suppose my question would be, would the person do that for you? Not that that's a reason, because I think it's about what feels good for you. But on the other hand, I think that whatever it is that's being offered to you or coming, into your pathway, you're supposed to say yes. It's supposed to be something that you experience or that you get to enjoy. I also think that you're going to have some kind of interest or desire to want to, even something that you already know how to do, to kind of like have a refresher. It's almost like I get the sense of like a refresher course, or something brand new that comes in. And this feels like really healing for you as well, because I think it demonstrates like how far you've come. It brings in a sort of level of humility, because you might have to, you might feel like, oh God, I'm back at the beginning, you know, I'm sort of, but you're not at all. It's just that you're looking at it with fresh eyes, and there's something really inspiring about it as well. I think there's a reimagining of some of the things that you want for yourself through the course of this month. And a lot of the energy is really facilitating a sort of still quiet period for you, which is probably much necessary after that eclipse season that might have felt a bit disruptive in your energy field. But this is the opportunity for you to kind of meet each one of these moments, as we said, and really decide for yourself, do I want to participate in this energetically? Because there is a continuing and a sort of reactivation from parts of the collective consciousness to, you know, send that projection of fear back in your direction. You just don't have to get on that merry-go-round. It's very important that you make choices and decisions that are sovereign to you about what is going to be best for me, what do I choose to believe in, how do I choose to live my life at this moment. I think there is financially, from an abundance perspective, some improvements to situations as well, if it has been a little bit tighter than usual. But there's also a careful reflection of how you're going to be managing things moving forward, and you might make some adjustments or be invited to kind of reconsider what you're doing in some areas. That doesn't feel negative. It doesn't feel like you're kind of put in a position where you're having to give up things that you really love or that you want. What it feels like is it's just a reprioritization, and in a way that can actually help get more focus on the things that truly matter to you at this point in time as well. So don't see that too negatively. But that Neptune retrograde, remember, is probably going to give us a little bit of a reality check in more than one ways, you know, as we approach the aspect change, which is just going to land on the day of the new moon in Cancer on the 28th of June, okay? So a time to sort of initiate a fresh start with something, but also with eyes wide open. Okay, so your oracle card, Aquarius, is flying, which is beautiful. We have this gorgeous rocking horse that's kind of got the butterfly wings, all these rainbow colours. We've got cherry blossoms, looks like a little hummingbird here, and we're flying up above the maze. So you're getting out of your own way, where you have maybe gone through a period, perhaps with retrograde, where you couldn't see the wood for the trees. Now there's like a joyful kind of uprising that I'm seeing coming in here, which I love. The sky is really beautiful and clear blue, and the petals are falling. So there's a time of transition and renewal here, but there's also kind of a reminder about what it feels like to be free, or what is it that I need to follow. This is again about falling back in love with something. So you're ready to fly, you're ready to take off. It's just about having to give yourself permission to do that. And you know, your kind of death energy, that phoenix rising that's coming through for you, you know, we never underestimate the challenges and the uncomfortableness of sort of what it takes to be able to kind of really bring about, you know, clear shifts in your life, or perhaps if you're on the receiving end of it having been forced upon you. But at the same token, I think you've got some beautiful energy this month to be able to actually make the best of the situations, kind of make your lemon from lemon, you know, your lemonade from lemons, whatever is given to you in your path, and actually feel that this is probably a blessing, is what I hear you saying to yourself through parts of this month, okay? Let's have a look at your astrology card. Okay, you have the North Node, future. So we are very orientated toward what comes next. And remember, the North Node is about the highest expression of us. It's about our Dharma. And so here we have an opportunity for you to really think carefully and reflectively in terms of your value, where you feel drawn, what you think your purpose is guiding you towards at this moment in time. And there does seem to me to be an awful lot going on here. We've got the full phases of the moon coming in. So I think emerging into a new phase is feeling quite powerful. There's something almost kind of galactic in terms of the feel of this. So the exploration of different types of energies, if you're working spiritually, starting to perhaps receive energy downloads in slightly different ways is also coming through. But you are pioneering and forging ahead. And remember, this Jupiter and Mars now in Aries is really quite powerful as it lights up that third house, because you have so much to say. You have so much to say, Aquarius, and it's really coming from a heartfelt place. So I love that energy for you, and I think you can work with that this month and actually see some incredible progress in things that, you know, you may have felt have stalled a little bit. Now's the month where you can start to gain ground very quickly. Remember, Gemini likes to move fast and see the progress instantaneously, so that can work really well for you. Okay, I wanted to just give you a quick preview of my new Oracle deck, Life So Vision. It's going to be out at the end of July. It's ready to pre-order with some early bird savings at the moment. Thank you so much if you've already supported me through Kickstarter, or if you've invested in a deck. You can find all the details and see the full deck preview over on my website. That's in the description and comment section underneath. Hopefully I will be able to use this full deck for you in next month's Soul Stories, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an insight today. So if you feel interested, please go check it out. All right, so we have talked about a general reading for the month of June, Aquarius. I'm going to invite you to think about a personal question that might not have come up in the main spread, and we'll go ahead and pull a couple of cards for you to look at that in the extended version of June's reading. If you're new to the channel, the link for that is in the description box underneath. It's a way to support the work that I do, so I can keep showing up to do the free content each month, and also for you to receive another 25 minutes or so of another reading and additional insights into the month ahead. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clarify this main reading, so just beginning with that energy of the Six of Swords. Okay, we have another Eight of Cups coming in here for you. And the Magician, oh, I like that. Seven of Cups. Now, all the decks that I use, Aquarius, are also available on a list underneath the video in the description and comment section, okay? So you have Judgment and the Ten of Pentacles. Knight of Cups. Okay, we've got Seven of Swords coming up there. And the High Priestess. Interesting. Nine of Cups. The Stranger of Gardens is the Knight of Pentacles. Okay, you have the Eight of Swords. And the Chariot. Oh, so many moving on cards, Aquarius. Another star, how beautiful. That's so auspicious for those of you who are really in some need of some deep healing this month. Five of Cups. Okay, the Jester is the Page, so that's another Page of Pentacles that we have coming through. Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn might be relevant. Hierophant and the Two of Wands. King of Wands. Justice. And the Hermit. Okay, Aquarius, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're joining me for the extended, I look forward to continuing this conversation. Be sure to check back in as the month unfolds, see how these messages resonate for you, and I hope you have a beautiful month of June. You take good care of yourselves. Thanks for tuning in.